Morning or good afternoon, depending on when you are viewing this. My name is Kim Botto, and I am the Regional Nutrition Program Coordinator for the Capital Hudson Valley region. I am pleased you are joining me today to learn about the big topic and somewhat confusing topic of sugar substitutes. If you haven't already done so, please print the presentation slides and the handouts from the FNEC website to refer to during this webinar. The title of today's webinar is Understanding Artificial Sweeteners and Other Sugar Substitutes. Let's start out with an example of label reading as it pertains to artificial sweeteners. To give an example of how confusing sugar substitutes can be and the importance of label reading, let's talk about a beverage I recently purchased. It was a low-calorie, coconut-flavored antioxidant beverage. I don't normally purchase these types of drinks because I don't like the aftertaste of the artificial sweeteners. However, on the label, this drink stated 1 gram of sugar and no artificial sweeteners. I thought to myself, oh, this sounds good, let me try it. Lo and behold, I reviewed the ingredient list after and found the 2 ingredients, erythritol and stevia extract. This company is correct in that these 2 ingredients are technically not artificial sweeteners, but they are sugar substitutes. Specifically, erythritol is a sugar alcohol and stevia extract is a novel sweetener. This will make much more sense after you have viewed today's webinar. Today's objectives. After participating in the Understanding Artificial Sweeteners and Other Sugar Substitutes webinar, you will be able to define sugar substitutes and their 4 categories, identify reasons why people use sugar substitutes, recognize the variety of artificial sweeteners available on the market and identify them on food labels, and finally, explain how artificial sweeteners are regulated by the FDA. After we review each objective in this webinar today, we will have a short scenario break where you will answer a question about a mock situation that may occur in your work with participants and how you should appropriately respond. As I mentioned before, the topic of sugar substitutes can be confusing, so let's first define this term. A sugar substitute is a food additive that provides a sweet taste like that of sugar while containing significantly less calories. Some sugar substitutes are produced by nature and others are produced synthetically. Natural and artificial sweeteners are present in every aisle of the supermarket. They are traditionally marketed towards those who are looking to satisfy their sweet tooth without giving up an increased risk of tooth decay, weight gain, and the possibility of developing or worsening a diabetic state. Sugar substitutes offer a taste similar to that of sucrose or table sugar, but are generally hundreds to thousands of times sweeter than sucrose. This means that relatively small amounts of sugar substitutes can be used to replace nutritive sweeteners, including sucrose, fructose, or high fructose corn syrup. There are 4 categories of sugar substitutes: artificial sweeteners, sugar alcohols, novel sweeteners, and natural sweeteners. This chart nicely organizes the 4 categories of sugar substitutes. We will be discussing these in detail in the next few slides. You will also refer back to this chart a little later to complete an activity. So let's take a closer look at each of these. What do they all mean? This slide shows examples of the various types of sugar substitutes. Splenda is an artificial sweetener. Xylitol is a sugar alcohol. Stevia pure via is a novel sweetener. And agave nectar is a natural sweetener. Let's first talk about artificial sweeteners. Artificial sweeteners and other sugar substitutes are widely used in processed foods, including baked goods, soft drinks, powdered drink mixes, candy, puddings, canned foods, jams and jellies, dairy products, and scores of other foods and beverages. They are marked as sugar-free or diet. We will be discussing the different types of artificial sweeteners on the market later in the webinar. Sugar alcohols. The name sugar alcohols is a little misleading because these substances are not sugar and not alcohol. They are carbohydrates that have a chemical structure similar to sugar and similar to alcohol, but are neither. The sugar alcohols are lactitol, mannitol, sorbitol, and xylitol, sometimes called polyols. Sugar alcohols can replace sugar, usually on a 1-to-1 basis, and contain fewer calories than sugar, but remember they are not calorie-free. Sorbitol, mannitol, and xylitol are naturally found in some plant products such as fruits and berries, but they can also be made in a laboratory. Lactitol is made from lactose, the carbohydrate in milk. Novel sweeteners are combinations of various types of sweeteners. Novel sweeteners, such as stevia, are hard to fit into one particular category because of what they're made from and how they're made. They include stevia extract, tagdatose, and trehalose. Natural sweeteners are sugar substitutes that are often promoted as healthier options than processed table sugar or other sugar substitutes. But even these so-called natural sweeteners often undergo processing and refining. They include agave nectar, date sugar, fruit juice concentrate, honey, maple syrup, and molasses. Now let's do an activity with recognizing the 4 types of sugar substitutes in food label ingredients. The next slide shows 6 different food products containing various sugar substitutes. Using the chart from slide 8, circle the specific names in the ingredient list for each type of sweetener and then determine what category the ingredient or ingredients fall into: artificial sweetener, sugar alcohol, novel sweetener, or natural sweetener. Press pause on the recording and give yourself time to review the food labels and decide on your answers. After, I will review the correct answers with you. The first food product we have is sugar-free vanilla caramel coffee mate. The sugar substitutes listed in the ingredients are sucralose and ace-sulfame potassium. For simplicity, from now on I will be referring to ace-sulfame potassium as just ACE-K. The correct answer to the second part of the question is B. Both of these sugar substitutes fall in the category of artificial sweeteners. How did you do on your first food label? The second food product we will be looking at is Orbit Wintermint Gum. The sugar substitutes listed in the ingredients are mannitol, aspartame, xylitol, and ACE-K. The correct answer to the second part of the question is both B and D. Mannitol and xylitol are both sugar alcohols, and aspartame and ACE-K are both artificial sweeteners. Look at organic mango white tea. The sugar substitute listed in the ingredients for this food product is organic agave syrup. The correct answer to the second part of the question is C. Agave syrup is a natural sweetener. How did you do? Let's take a look at Emerald 100-calorie pack cinnamon roast almonds. The sugar substitutes listed in the ingredients are ACE-K, and sucralose. The correct answer to the second part of the question is B. Both are artificial sweeteners. Activia Light Yogurt. The sugar substitutes listed in the ingredients are aspartame, ACE-K, and sucralose. The correct answer to the second part of the question is B. All three are artificial sweeteners. And our last food product to take a look at today is Sobe Life Water. The sugar substitute listed in the ingredients is REBA, or also called Purevia. The correct answer to the second part of the question is A. Purevia is a novel sweetener. Let's pause for a few moments to answer our first scenario break about Dr. Know-It-All. Please pause the recording and think through the answer to this question, and after I will review the answer with you. On the next slide is a scenario that may occur in your work with participants. How would you appropriately respond to this situation? A participant in your class tells you that they always watch Dr. Know-It-All, and he says that artificial sweeteners are bad for you and should be avoided. What kind of choices do we have for answers? A, I love Dr. Know-It-All. You can trust anything he says. B, you should be spending more time exercising instead of watching TV. C, FNEC relies on research-based information. Or D, that's not true. Artificial sweeteners are good for you. Given the choices, the best answer is C. FNEC relies on research-based information. While C is the best answer, there's a little more to discuss here. Our message to participants is that there are better choices for artificially sweetened drinks and that we should minimize their use and replace them with low-fat milk and water. We're going to discuss the reasons people use sugar substitutes. We will discuss each one separately over the next few slides. Weight control. One of the most appealing aspects of artificial sweeteners is that they are non-nutritive, they have virtually no calories. In contrast, each gram of regular table sugar contains 4 calories. A teaspoon of sugar is about 4 grams. For perspective, consider that one 12-ounce can of a sweetened cola contains 10 teaspoons of added sugar, or about 150 calories. If you're trying to lose weight or prevent weight gain, products sweetened with artificial sweeteners rather than with table sugar may be an attractive option. On the other hand, some research has suggested that consuming artificial sweeteners may be associated with increased weight, but the cause is not yet known. Diabetes is another reason people choose to use sugar substitutes. Artificial sweeteners may be a good alternative to sugar if you have diabetes. Unlike sugar, artificial sweeteners generally don't raise blood sugar levels because they're not carbohydrates. But because of concerns about how sugar substitutes are labeled and categorized, consumers should always check with their doctor or dietitian about using any sugar substitutes if they have diabetes. Artificial sweeteners may also be used in cooking and baking to reduce overall caloric intake. Certain recipes may need modification, though, because artificial sweeteners provide no bulk or volume, as does sugar. So substituting artificial sweeteners for sugar may affect a product's texture, taste, or cooking time. Check the labels on artificial sweeteners for appropriate home use. Recipes that usually do well with sugar substitutes include beverages, frozen desserts, pie fillings, sauces, gelatins, and puddings. Cakes, cookies, and meringues depend on large amounts of sugar for more of their finished properties. You should not replace more than 2 cups of sugar with an artificial sweetener in these types of products. The next slide provides some guidance on how to modify recipes with sugar substitutes. Keep in mind that substitute ratios vary among artificial sweeteners. ACE-K, saccharin, sucralose, and neotame are all suitable for cooking and baking as they are heat stable. Aspartame may be unstable for cooking at high heat, but can be added to products at the end of the cooking process. Another use for artificial sweeteners has to do with cost and shelf life. Many sugar substitutes are cheaper than sugar. Sugar substitutes are often lower in total cost because of their long shelf life and high sweetening intensity. This allows sugar substitutes to be used in products that will not perish after a short period of time. Lastly, artificial sweeteners can help reduce intake of sugar, and unlike regular sugar or sucrose, they do not promote growth of bacteria that cause cavities. Carbohydrates and sugars usually adhere to the tooth enamel, where bacteria feed upon them and quickly multiply. The bacteria convert the sugar to acids that decay the teeth. Sugar substitutes, unlike sugar, do not erode teeth as they are not fermented by the microflora of the dental plaque. A sweetener that can actually benefit dental health is xylitol, which tends to prevent bacteria from adhering to the tooth surface, thus preventing plaque formation and eventually decay. Brief break for scenario 2 about diabetes and artificial sweeteners. On the next slide, there is a scenario that may occur in your work with participants. How would you appropriately respond to this situation? Please pause the recording and answer to this question. After I will review the answer with you. A participant has diabetes. She asks you what foods contain artificial sweeteners that she can incorporate into her diet to help control her blood sugar. Possible choices include A, I can help you read food labels. B, because I cannot give medical advice, you should check with your healthcare provider. C, Google it. Or D, phone a friend. Given the choices, the best answer is A. I can help you read food labels. We teach participants skills on label reading, and therefore this is a great opportunity for us to help a participant with diabetes recognize ingredients in a food product. How did you do? We're going to discuss Objective 3, the variety of artificial sweeteners on the market today. They include ACE-K, aspartame, neotame, saccharin, sucralose, and advantame. Let's take a closer look at each one. This is just a nice slide that visually shows how many times sweeter artificial sweeteners are compared to sugar. ACE-K is marketed as Sweeteners and Sweet 1 and is 200 times sweeter than sugar. It is a white, odorless powder with no calories. It is not broken down by the body and is excreted unchanged in your urine. It is heat stable. Because it can leave a slight aftertaste, it is often combined with another artificial sweetener. Aspartame is marketed as NutraSweet or equal and is 160 to 220 times sweeter than sugar. It is a combination of 2 amino acids. Your body digests aspartame like any other protein. It is not heat stable, so it is mostly used in soft drinks. It is also found as a tabletop sweetener. Neotame is marketed as NutraSweet and is 7,000 to 8,000 times sweeter than sugar. It is used in foods and beverages. It is not absorbed by your body. Saccharin is marketed as Sugar Twin and Sweet and Low and is 300 to 500 times sweeter than sugar. It is produced from a naturally occurring substance in grapes. It does not promote cavities and is not absorbed by your body and is excreted in your urine. Because it tends to have a bitter aftertaste, it is often blended with other sweeteners. It is often found as a tabletop sweetener. Sucralose is marketed as Splenda. It is a substance that is chemically derived from sugar, but it is 600 times sweeter than sugar. It is not absorbed by your body and passes through unchanged. It is mostly found in beverages, processed foods, gum, and as a tabletop sweetener. And lastly is Advantame. It has been approved as a new food additive for use as a sweetener and flavor enhancer in foods except meat and poultry, and is 20,000 times sweeter than sugar. It doesn't have a brand name yet, such as Sweet and Low or Equal. Examples of uses for which Advantame has been approved include baked goods, non-alcoholic beverages, including soft drinks, chewing gum, confections and frostings, frozen desserts, gelatins and puddings, jams and jellies, processed fruits and fruit juices, toppings, and syrups. Some surprising foods that you wouldn't expect to contain artificial sweeteners. You might be surprised to find the following healthy-sounding foods contain artificial sweeteners: breakfast cereal, or Fiber One, popcorn, Go Lightly sugar-free popcorn, yogurt, Dannon's Light and Fit, light or diet beverages, Minute Maid light orange juice beverage, or snack bars, Quaker Chewy granolas. You also have a handout that goes into each of these foods in particular and discusses what artificial sweeteners are in each one. The bottom line is check the packaging to find out if healthy-looking products like yogurt, juices, water, or other foods contain unexpected sweeteners. Let's take another scenario break before discussing artificial sweeteners and regulations. Scenario break number 3. On the next slide is a scenario that may occur in your work with participants. How would you appropriately respond to this situation? A participant shares with you her goal to lose weight. She explains that her strategy will be to only consume foods with artificial sweeteners because they don't have any calories. Please pause the recording and think through the answer to this question. After, I will review the answer with you. Possible choices include A. That's not the right way to lose weight. B. Artificial sweeteners are too expensive. C. Have you ever considered bypass surgery? D. During our time together, we will be learning about how to maintain a healthy weight based on the MyPlate guidelines. Given the choices, the best answer is D. During our time together, we will be learning about how to maintain a healthy weight based on the MyPlate guidelines. Although the best answer is D, you will want to provide more explanation to the participant. For example, you can tell the participant you will be teaching them about foods they can prepare at home that don't have to be sweetened at all. How did you do on this one? Now we will discuss our last objective for today's webinar, which addresses how artificial sweeteners are regulated. Just about any substance can cause health problems if it is consumed in huge quantities, and artificial sweeteners are no different. Animal lab studies have shown that excessive consumption of certain artificial sweeteners like saccharin and aspartame is associated with the development of cancer. However, it is virtually impossible for humans to consume an equivalent amount of artificial sweetener from food available in our markets. For example, people would have to drink hundreds, even thousands of diet sodas a day to ingest the same dosages used in the studies. Let's take a closer look at the approval process. Prior to approval, sugar substitutes undergo extensive safety testing and lengthy review. FDA considers short and long-term toxicity, carcinogenicity, and reproductive toxicity studies. The basic questions the FDA reviews are: how and where is the additive made and who makes it? What will it do as an ingredient to food? How will it be consumed? Who, adults, children, or pregnant women, will consume it, and how much will each group consume? And has it been shown to be safe and without adverse effects? The Food and Drug Administration has established acceptable daily intake levels for some artificial sweeteners, which is the amount of substance that can be consumed daily over a lifetime without appreciable health risks to a person on the basis of all the known facts at the time of the evaluation. The acceptable daily intake, or ADI, must be considered prior to approval for any food ingredient, including sugar substitutes. It is difficult to find measurements of exactly how much artificial sweetener is consumed by Americans, but it is estimated that the amount of artificial sweetener consumed annually has doubled over the past 40 years. The next slide shows ADIs for approved artificial sweeteners. Part of the basis for consensus on safety is that in order to reach the ADI for any particular sugar substitute, a person would have to consume amounts well above typical dietary intake and do so over a lifetime. Let's look at a couple of examples in the next slides. One is for an adult and one is for a child. Typical dietary intake is well below the ADI for all sweeteners. For example, to reach the ADI for aspartame, a 150-pound adult would have to consume daily 20 12-ounce cans of diet soda, or 42 4-ounce servings of sugar-free gelatin, or 97 packets of tabletop sweetener. Examples: Equal and NutraSweet. Another example includes a 50-pound child would have to consume daily 6 12-ounce cans of diet soda, or 14 4-ounce servings of sugar-free gelatin, or 32 packets of tabletop sweetener, like Equal or NutraSweet. Okay, let's pause for our last scenario break about baking and artificial sweeteners. On the next slide is a scenario that may occur in your work with participants. How might you appropriately respond to this situation? Wants to substitute artificial sweeteners into some of her recipes, but she isn't sure how it will affect the end product. Choices for answers include: you can't use artificial sweeteners in cooking or baking. What would Julia Childs say? I bet you're a great cook. Provide her with information on what you learned today about cooking and baking with artificial sweeteners. Please pause the recording and think through the answer to this question, and after I will review the answer with you. Given the choices, the best answer is D. Provide her with information on what you learned today about cooking and baking with artificial sweeteners. How did you do on our last scenario break? In summary, consuming artificial sweeteners may allow people to enjoy what they eat more while potentially reducing calories and carbohydrate intake, which may be a concern if people are pre-diabetic, diabetic, or preparing food for someone with these health issues. Ultimately, it is up to individuals to decide how artificial sweeteners fit into their lifestyle choices. For those who choose to use artificial sweeteners, it is still a good goal to reduce cravings for sweetness. It is important to help people who need to watch their carbohydrate intake reach or maintain the goals set by a healthcare provider, regardless of whether they choose to use artificial sweeteners or not. And artificial sweeteners, past, present, and future. As with nutrition, the world of artificial sweeteners is not stagnant. It is continually evolving with advances in food technology and science, with many more options available today than 20 years ago. The information provided today will likely be outdated in a year as new products are developed and additional research is done. In the end, it is important to keep in mind that label reading is the key to helping our FNEC participants in recognizing and understanding the role of artificial sweeteners in their diets. Thank you so much for participating in today's webinar on understanding artificial sweeteners and other sugar substitutes. It has been a pleasure presenting this information to you. Please feel free to contact me with any questions or comments. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Sugar substitutes, visit these websites. And sources for today's webinar are included here. Thank you again and have a great day.